The Florida Gators have landed a commitment, and it is running back, four-star running back, Jadan Baugh. We're going to talk about that on a bonus episode of Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to a bonus episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. Happy Wednesday. I guess happy. I'm happy. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with how the day is going so far. I'm not in panic mode. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. Find me in the subtext group too, which if you're in the subtext group, you've known about Jadan Baugh, and you've known that for me, Florida's always been the favorite now. Even when Bama was picking up some traction, I was still like, hey, I think it's Florida, and Jadan Baugh has committed. If you're not part of the subtext group and you want to be, join subtext.com/LockedOnGators is where you got to go for that. But Florida, look, this has been a roller coaster of emotion today, just with the LJ McCray stuff and everything going on there. But now you've added Jadan Baugh to your class. He's a 4-star, depending on where you look, a 3-star elsewhere. We can look at On3 for it. We could see as well. 24/7, he's listed as a 3-star. On On3, he is listed as a 4-star. He's a 4-star on 3 and Rivals and a 3-star on 24/7 and ESPN. On the composite for On 3, he is a 4-star running back. And as I see a few things in the chat. As always, we'll get to the chat in the second half of these lives, but I did want to talk about just Jadan Baugh committing to the Florida Gators, because I do think that that's big. Committing and signing to the Florida Gators, which first off, believe he was supposed to do that tonight at 6:30 Eastern time. I don't know what happened that he eventually ended up picking Florida for it, but big news for that. We didn't really fully, I guess, expect it early, but yeah, he did that earlier and now is signed with the Florida Gators. And that's the big part, not just committing, but actually signing. And Florida added him to the class. Big for Florida here when you had so much momentum not trending your way. Because, it was trending a little bit rough, we'll say, with the LJ McCray stuff. And Zay Mincy's expected to go to Bama, pushed it back a day because now he's expected to sign tomorrow. I think it helps Florida a little bit if you're just getting that extra time to try and get back into it since you've fallen behind Alabama there. But adding Jadan Baugh to your class is big. We know that Florida's been interested in adding 2 running backs to the class this whole time. That's been a big thing for them. They had Chauncey Bowens initially, and then he left the class to go to Georgia, and his ranking took a tumble and a half, really. And then you look at Florida was in on Jadan Baugh, and then in on Jared Gibson again. And a couple weeks ago, last week, Jared Gibson shut down his recruitment entirely, and Florida was right back to priority number 1 being Jadan Baugh. I think it's a great duo to have in both Jadan Baugh and Kanan Daniels. I will say, I know some places have Jadan Baugh. I believe On3 has Jadan Baugh higher completely than Kanan Daniels. I would disagree with that. They have them at the same ranking, but for me, I think Kanan Daniels is running back 1 here. I think he's a hell of a back. I've been honest about that the entire time. I've been on that the entire time. And Kanan Daniels is a hell of a back. I think Jadan Baugh, the role for him that the staff views is that they think his versatility is a big plus because Jadan Baugh has played multiple positions. He's played running back, he's played QB, he's played receiver, he's played everywhere. How defensively he's played corner and safety. So he's played so many different positions, and I think that that's where it helps him and hurts him a little bit because he doesn't have just that pure running back experience that someone like Caden Daniels has, and the vision is a big part there, a big factor of actually getting to play running back consistently. But he's also got the versatility of playing wide receiver where you can line him up out wide, you can line him up in the slot, just make him a pass catcher out of the backfield. We know that Florida liked doing that a lot this year with Montrell Johnson. Montrell has not officially announced what he's going to be doing. Again, I think he'll be back, but he has not officially announced anything. But having Jadan Baugh to potentially replace that production out of the backfield as a pass catcher is huge. It's also very important to talk about how this is one of those times where Florida went in on a kid and actually won the battle. I feel like a lot of those have not gone Florida's way lately, where you've had Xavier Filsaime flip, you had Jamonta Waller flip, you had Wardell Mack flip. It's quite a few times you've had a kid where it was you in another school and you lost it. Here, it was initially Florida and Arkansas. And then Florida, like at a certain point, it felt like he was more likely to be a Gator than an Arkansas Razorback. And in the past couple weeks, we've seen Alabama kind of sneak into the discussion. And the other day, yesterday, it was, oh, like this kid, Bama's trending. If you're part of the subtext group, again, if you're part of the subtext, or if you're part of just watching this show, part of the everydayers, then I've never wavered on. I think Jadan Baugh would be a Florida Gator. That's been the trend for me. I think that relationship really worked out for Florida, and I thought that it would. What time does Hayes sign? I honestly don't know, and I don't care. It's as simple as that. I've been told that Florida pulled the offer for him, so not expecting Adarius Hayes to be a Gator at all. Don't care if he wants to be. That from what I've been told, which I don't think he wants to be anyway. But I've been told that Florida pulled the offer when he was already trending for Miami. Sure, you get to say you pulled the offer, but it's because you were losing that recruitment battle anyway. We will get to the chat in just a second. Before we get to that, and before we talk about just the rest of this early signing day and what it's going to look like, we do have to get a quick word from our sponsors. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just some other job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, including myself, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring's easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And they even just launched the feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. Post your job free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Also bringing you today's bonus episode of Locked On Gators is FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. You could do that on just a bye game before we get to the conference, play in college basketball. Just saying. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is incredibly easy to use. I'm going to have a lot of fun tonight, and I will have a lot of fun the rest of bowl season. Just letting you know. Just saying, it's free money in bowl season. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Remember that FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free reviews in the podcast. And like I said, we're going to get to the chat here. We're going to talk about the rest of this Florida Gators class and just how this could shape up. But yeah, as far as Adarius Hayes, my understanding of the situation, and I talked about this a little bit on this morning's episode of Locked On Gators, is Florida had an in-home visit scheduled with Adarius Hayes last Friday, the last day that they can go on those in-home visits. Okay? Last minute, Adarius Hayes cancels it to go to Miami and go on a visit to Miami. My understanding is that was like the last straw for Florida. We know the antics, the TikToks, and everything. The shutting down my recruitment 40 times. But my understanding is that that was the last straw for Florida, which I'm glad that that was the last straw for them because, and I talked about this on this morning's show, I feel like you just look stupid if you take him in your class after that. Like, even if Adarius wanted to be a Florida Gator, I think that you look stupid if you take him because that's, and I use this analogy, which is like, if someone has plans to hang out with their girlfriend and then they cancel it to go very publicly hang out with their side chick and post it all over social media, the girlfriend looks bad if she takes you back, right? Because you did her dirty. That's how I liken it with this recruitment battle. That is how I liken the Adarius Hayes situation. I think that yeah, you just look bad there. KJ Bolden has officially just flipped from Florida State to Georgia, so Georgia gets stronger, but also which sucks. But also Florida State took an L, which sucks for them as well. So neutral feelings about that one, we'll say. Snack Burrito, love the name. You seem new here, but hi, welcome. We have a hell of a linebacker class signed without him. That's a big thing for me with Adarius Hayes. If we lost Miles Graham or you lost Aaron Childs, I would be disappointed, like very disappointed in losing a player like that. And I'm not saying that Adarius is bad at all. I still think he's a fine player. But having Miles Graham and Aaron Childs, if you lost either of them, I'd be way more upset. Even if they did all the antics, I would still kind of want them back because I think they'd be worth it. For me, the staff planned on using Adarius Hayes as an off-ball linebacker. I don't think that's a good long-term spot for him. I think he's better on the edge. So for me, you're losing the guy that I think the staff is going to use wrongly anyway. So I especially don't care that much about losing him, right? So for me, if you didn't have such a good linebacker class already, like even if you only had Miles Graham or Aaron Childs and you lost Adarius Hayes, I'd care a lot more. But you're losing the third linebacker. I'm not too upset about that. Just to be completely honest. What's up, Zach? How worried should we be for LJ? I'd say moderately worried. Like, I don't think you should panic at all. I'm not panicking. I've reached out to an Auburn source, and what I was told is basically just, hey, I think the kid doesn't really know what he wants to do definitively. And I'm comfortable saying that if it gets into maybe not an all-out bidding war, but if it becomes a matter where Florida can compete, like they're willing to do that. And Florida's NIL is weird. We'll talk about it on another show where I talk about why it's so weird and so inconsistent, where it's like, oh, we can spend money on these kids, but not these kids. And it's a very odd grouping there. But for Florida, the rest of the day, like Phantom mentioned in the chat, Greg Smith is next. And for me, I was like, okay, Jadan Baugh, Zay Mincy, and Greg Smith are the main names that aren't committed that I'm looking at for Florida. Jadan Baugh has committed. Zay Mincy is not signing today, and even if he was, we wouldn't find out where he was signing today. And Greg Smith is the next name, who Greg Smith is committing in about 15 minutes. And if he does commit to the Florida Gators, we will be going live again for that one. But Greg Smith, I do think will be a Florida Gator. I'm very much hoping and expecting that. And I know that I mentioned that on this morning's show, and someone left a comment that was just like, basically thinking that I was saying Greg Smith is going to replace Xavier Filsaime. No, but I wanted Greg Smith before Xavier Filsaime left the class. So for me, Greg Smith is someone that I do think will be a Florida Gator, and I'm hoping will be a Florida Gator in about, yeah, like I said, 15, 20 minutes. You know how those ceremonies can drag on. But we will go live again if he commits to the Florida Gators. And my expectation is that he will commit to the Florida Gators. So thank you so much for tuning in, spending a bit of time. I know that early signing day is just a pain in the you-know-what. But, hey, there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation, right? That's a fair thing to say. And if you're a Florida Gators fan, man, you've been through some battles. Hopefully some positivity coming up a little more. And Snack Burrito, yes, you mentioned getting Makai Boyro back in the class. I'm a big fan of Makai Boyro. When he left, I said you flat out lost him. It's as simple as that. That this was a loss. I don't care about the ranking or anything like that. Makai Boyro is someone I'm a big fan of. It's very hard to find a quality nose tackle, and I think he can become that. And for Florida's defense, you need that. There's a reason Cam Jackson made such a big impact last year. Finding a quality nose tackle in this defensive system when you have to two-gap it, basically when Cam Jackson's responsible for both gaps on either side of the center, that's very important to have a quality nose tackle. So I'm very happy about that. But thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for anyone that's ever supported this show. It'll never get old for me that I get to do this. But thanks for making Locked On Gators your first, second, third, whatever listen of the day. We'll be back hopefully in about 20 minutes for Locked On Gators with Greg Smith committing. But for Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants History, NFL 33. Check out the subtext, join subtext.com/LockedOnGators. It's 2 weeks free, $5 a month after that. No commitment, but it's fun. You get inside information like a potential D-line coach name. But I will see you all hopefully shortly.